Today is Monday, Tezayin Elul Tavshin Ayin Vov. We are in Teres Menachem, Sefer HaMamorim Tavshin Yud Gimel, in the Maimer of Basi Legani, Yud Shvat Tavshin Yud Gimel, and we are on page Pei Beis, and we're up to chapter 5, Ois Hey. The Rebbe is over here explaining the idea of the fact that the natural state of a Jew is such that he does not want and he cannot be separate from godliness. And as the Zohar explains, the phrase Nefesh Kisechta, a soul that will transgress, which is a pasuk, a verse in the Torah, discussing what sacrificial offerings should be brought and so on. The Zohar says that the inner meaning of this pasuk is Nefesh Kisechta question mark. Tavoha. How can a Yid sin? It's not possible. The natural state of a Yid is such that he cannot transgress, because a transgression means becoming separate from godliness, and that is just not naturally possible for a Jew. So what is it? How is it possible? It's because of the Ruach Shtus, the spirit of folly, which enters into the person, and the Eibishter has given that a special power to be able to conceal the truth and to make the person imagine that he still remains connected to Hashem despite the fact that he transgressed. Now, but when it comes to a situation, said the Rebbe, that there's no two ways of interpreting it, other than that through this act one will become separated from godliness. At that point, a Yid, despite how distant he may be from godliness and from Torah and mitzvahs on a regular basis, nevertheless at that point he is awakened with self-sacrifice and will give away his life just so not to be separated from godliness. Why? Because this comes from the essence of the soul, and that is rooted because the souls of a Yid are rooted in the very essence of Hashem, which is beyond fragmentation, beyond difference, and therefore this point is something which is equal in each and every Jew, irrespective of how great or how small, how pious or otherwise they might be. That's one point. The other point that I made was that it's so powerful and so innately essential, as it were, that once a person gets into that mode, it actually affects also all the interior faculties of the person. That all the keiches and nefesh, all the faculties of the soul, are included, are subsumed into this mode of Mesiras Nefesh. Now the question is, why indeed is it the natural state of a Jew that he does not want and cannot be separated from godliness? That's what the Rebbe is going to begin to explain in chapter 5. Page Pei Beis. To explain this, to explain what? The fact that it is the nature of every Jew, that he does not want, and he cannot, to be separated from godliness. He cannot be separated from godliness. Where does this stem from? It is brought in Eitz Chaim, in the writings of the Arizal. The Yesh Nitzutz Koton Echod Beirei. There is one small spark of the Creator, Shemislabish, that clothes itself benitzutz Echod Nivra, in one spark of the created, Hanikra Yechida, which is called Yechida. Ve'ofen hislapshus zu hu shehem nasim davar echad. The manner in which this clothing takes place is that they become as one. They become one entity. The nitzutz echad beiri and the nitzutz echad nivra become one entity. So it works like this. We know, as the Medrash says, Chamisha shemes nikru. The soul has 5 names, which are Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, and Yechida. Nefesh is a reference, refers to the active aspects of the soul. Maisa. Right? When a person is overcome with a sense of Kabbalah's oil, the acceptance of Hashem's yoke, to act in accordance with Hashem's will. Ruach is a reference to Midas, the emotions of the soul. Neshama refers to the intellectual aspects of the soul. Chai, those three are interior dimensions of the soul. Internal dimensions of the soul. Conscious dimensions of the soul. You then have Chaya and Yechida. Chaya is already makif, it's already transcendent. And that is a reference to Rotzen, desire. And Yechida refers to the essence of the soul. So it says in Chassidus that when you say Chamisha Shemeis Nikru Lanashama, that the soul is called by 5 names, that would also refer to Yechida. Yechida is one of the 5 names of the soul. Once you say name, it already, to a certain extent, excludes it being essence. Because the essence has no name. So what's Yechida? So you have Yechida as a name, but then you have Yechida as the essence. Just to use it as a description for identifying it, but not that that's the name. When you say Chamisha Shemeis Nikrula, means it must mean that in Yechida there's an aspect which is like a name. What is that? So this is the secret. Because Yechida is made up of 2 components, as it were. 2 parts. There are two aspects to Yechida. There is the Yechida which is the Nitzutz Nivra. There's the Yechida which is the spark of the created. And then you have the Nitzutz Beiri, the spark of the creator, that clothes itself within the Nitzutz Nivra, within the spark of the created. And they fuse as one. That is Etzem HaNeshama.
So it's really composed of 2 entities, or 2 potential entities, or that higher thorn or the lower thorn.
Two it's hard to. It's not entities because you're talking about essence.
Right.
But there are 2 strands, if you will, 2 tnuas, 2 modes, 2 aspects.
An upper and a lower that you have in the very.
The created, the aspect of the creator within it, and the aspect of the created. Okay? Now this is the key. The Rebbe is going to go now into a Kabbalistic explanation here, how it exactly works, which madrega. But the point at the core of it is that that's what the Etzem HaNeshama is. That's what's called, I guess in the vernacular, the Pintele Yid. The Nitzutz, that little spark. The Etzem HaNeshama. And that is something, as I alluded to in one of the previous shurim, that every aspect of the soul has its opposition, has its negative force that can challenge it. There's nefesh in kedusha, and there's its polar opposite in klipa. So too ruach, neshama, and chaya. Yechida does not, and therefore that when it comes to that point, when that point of the soul is awakened, nothing can stand in its way, and it actually expresses itself very powerfully in all the actual faculties of the soul, that those should also be in line with it. Okay? So let's see how the Rebbe spells this out. Now this nitzutz koton echad beirish mislabish v'nitzutz echad nivra, this small tiny spark of the Creator that clothes itself in this spark of the created, which is called Yechida, this v'zen nimtza, this is present b'chol echad v'echad miYisrael, in each and every single Jew. Mibli habet nit kukendik, not irrespective of al keches hagluyim, on his revealed faculties. And the matters that the soul possesses from the other 4 names with which the soul is called. So irrespective of what's going on with any person's action, midas, emotions, intellectual aspects, desire, right? So in other words, when it comes to those, you can act, God forbid, not in accordance with the Torah. One can invest one's emotions, one's feelings and things, one can appreciate and be connected to things that are not kedusha, that are not holiness. One can desire things, One can invest one's mind in things that are not kedusha. One can desire things that are not kedusha. But when it comes to yichida, that's not that remains pure, and therefore, irrespective of what's going on with the nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya aspects of the soul, the yichida aspect of the soul is present in its purity within each and every Jew. Now we're just a point of introduction. We'll stop very shortly. It's going to be a little intricate to get through this, but if we don't lose focus, then I think we'll manage. Existence, all of existence comes into being through the Esses Spheres. Those are the building blocks. The 10 spheres, the 10 divine attributes are the building blocks of all of creation. The first revelation within our reality, after the tzimtzum, after the first contraction, is what is known as Ak, Adam Kadmon. The perennial man, is that the way you translate it? The primordial man. Which denotes a contradiction in terms, really, because on the one hand it's primordial, on the other hand it's man. So you're talking about a level that contains two things. On the one hand, his pshitus, complete, on the one hand, beyond any form or identification. On the other hand, it's Adam, which denotes a tziyur, a partzuf, the Esses Spheres. So it's the primordial state of the Esses Spheres in its most refined and pure state after the tzimtzum. So in whatever way you have Esses Spheres, they're the 10 spheres. So you have the telltale signs, as it were, for Eiris, you have the telltale signs for Kalim, Levushim, right? We learned about this in previous Ma'amorim also. Souls come into being through the spheres, through the fusion of different levels of spheres, give birth, as it were, to different levels of souls. Zera Odom, Zera Behema, remember we discussed all that. But it's all got to do with the spheres. In the spheres, in the attributes, you have the Eir and you have the Keli. The creation, the birth of neshamas, of souls, is from the Kelim, from the vessels. And in the vessels itself, you have the Pnimius HaKli and you have the Chetzenis HaKli, the internal aspect of the vessel and the external aspect of the vessel. Much like a cup, where you have the inside of the cup and the outside of the cup. When you pour something into the cup, it is the inside of the cup, the inside walls of the cup that comes in contact with that which is inside, that you've poured in there. So what you've poured in there is the Eir, as it were. The inside wall is in contact with that. The outside wall is something else. When it comes to drink or to pour from that to the outside, that's where you have, or when you want to draw on it, that's where the outside of the cup comes into play. You have to hold it on the outside, right? It's not an exact metaphor, but you get the sense. So neshamas come from where? Come from Pnimius HaKelim, from the internal aspect of the Keli, of Adam Kadmon, which fuses with the Eir. Right? That's point number one.
But Adam Kadmon already has the potential of 10 spheres.
Correct.
So when you're saying from the inside, is each part coming from each part? For example, Chesed from Chesed.
Depending on which neshama it is, yeah. But we're talking generally speaking, this is the... So that's point number one. Now, what's the point that Rebbe makes? So the Rebbe makes the neshamas come from the internal aspects of the kelim. Kelim denote limit and fragmentation. That's what they denote in whatever way the keli exists in Adam Kadmon. But it's already an idea of limitation and fragmentation, right? Now, if that's the case, the Rebbe is trying to explain over here how, when it comes to Mesiras Nefesh, self-sacrifice, when, in other words, that this pintali is equal and constant in every single Jew and in all Jews, and it makes no difference where the person is up to. with everything else in their soul. Or Moshe Rabbeinu or the greatest sinner possess this pin to the Yid intact in the same way because it's beyond fragmentation. Says the Rebbe, the soul comes from where? From the Pnimius HaKelim. Yes, Pnimius. And it's fused with the Eir. But nonetheless, it's Kelim, and Kelim denotes fragmentation. And if that's the case, how does the Nitzutz Beirei, the spark of the Creator, fuse with it in such a way that it remains beyond fragmentation and beyond limit and so on and so forth? So the Rebbe is going to explain that because of the fact that it is from the Pnimius HaKeli, not from the Chitzonius HaKeli. If it would come from the exterior aspects of the Keli, then we would have a bigger problem. But because it's the inner aspect of the Keli, and the inner aspect of the Keli is united, fused with the Oir, right? And the quarry from which the souls are hewn is a garment for the quarry from which spheres come. It's a bit Kabbalistic. I'll try to elaborate tomorrow, Mitzvah, right? Therefore, they are fused as one. And therefore, through that process, that purity is always present and remains intact. We'll continue Mitzvah tomorrow more about this.